Good evening. I want to say thank you, and it's an honor to be up here. I want to say a special thanks to Richard for giving me some encouragement to get back up here and to give a Devo for tonight. If you will, let's turn to 1 Peter chapter 2. That's where the thought of tonight's devotional is going to come from, verses 9 and 10. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his possession, so that you may proclaim the praises of the one who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Last year, around this time, my sister and I, we took a trip to New Zealand. The trip itself was amazing. It was wonderful. Everywhere we looked, it was picturesque. Mountains, valleys, going along the shoreline, seeing animals of all kinds. But even though we had all this preparation and for years, we had talked about maybe taking a trip, and nothing ever goes according to plan, and flying is not for the faint-hearted. We had many flights that just vanished and disappeared, so we had to book them new flights right then and there in the airport to hopefully not be late. We got there on time, and everything was fine. It was about a 2-week trip, just trying new foods, experiencing the sights that New Zealand has to offer, amazing food. The culture was something that was worthwhile seeing. I took a bunch of photos, and everything was, like I said, everything could have been a postcard, from seeing snow-capped mountains, farms that dangled off of cliff sides. It was very bizarre, but it was also beautiful. We were two of about 20-plus people. We had people from Michigan, North Carolina, someone from California, a couple people from Canada. But there's 4 people that we really connected with. 2 people from the UK, Jake and John, and then there was 2 Scottish people, Emma and Liam. It was really fun to get to know these people and to really bond with them over these next 2 weeks, which when you're thrusted into like a distant land, you're outside your comfort zone, you kind of have to bond with someone. And that's what we all had in common. I've grown close to these people, and we talk every now and then. We keep in touch. But this devotional is not about some great trip that I took and saved up for. It's about a conversation that we had one night as we were all just dining together in Wellington. We had talked that night about accents, where everyone's from. They really liked the Southern accent. I gave them a couple y'alls, a couple bless your hearts, So they got a kick out of that. But the conversation, one way or another, turned towards religion, and they asked what we were, and we said we were Christians and that we followed Christ. And one of the UK friends, he had said something about he had bad experiences of those that profess to be Christians that wear that name, and some that possibly didn't act in the way that Christ would have us to act. And for some reason, that stuck with me one way or another, these 8-9 months removed from the trip, and I think there's definitely a reason for that. It's definitely stuck with me in the fact that it's made me conscious of how I act in public, how I act in the workplace, friends, neighbors, and it reminds me of the call that we have from Jesus, how we are supposed to model ourselves after him. Look back at 2 Peter. Let's look at the first 5 verses. Therefore, rid yourselves of all malice, all deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and all slander. Like newborn infants, desire the pure milk of the word, so that by it you may grow up in your own salvation. If you have tasted that the Lord is good, as you come to him, a living stone, rejected by people, but chosen and honored by God. Verse 4. But looking at this passage, we see that once we have rid ourselves of our old selves, once we have become new Christians, there are certain standards and certain practices that we must adhere to if we are to be faithful. As it says in Romans 6, 1-4, what shall we say then? Should we continue in sin that grace may multiply? Absolutely not. How can we die to sin and still live in it? Or are we unaware that all of us who were baptized into Christ were baptized into his death? We are called to be different, and it says so in Matthew 5, 14-16, about how we're supposed to let our light shine in front of others, how we're supposed to be a city on a hill. It is no easy feat to take up your cross daily, but it is one that is well rewarding at the end of the life. Look back at 2 Peter, and we're going to look at verses 11 and following. Peter says, "Dear friends, I urge you as strangers and as exiles to abstain from sinful desires that wage war against the soul. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, so that when they slander you as evildoers, they will observe your good works and will glorify God on the day he visits." Peter notes in several ways here that how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in worthy of recognition, how we are supposed to guide our lives, model it after Christ, and that God would be pleased by this way of life. In order to be a peculiar and chosen people, we must, like I said, model ourselves after Christ. Turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, and we'll start in verse 31. 1 Corinthians 10, we'll start in 31. "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do everything for the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or Greeks or the church of God, as I also try to please everyone in everything, not seeking my own benefit, but the benefit of many, so that they may be saved. Imitate me as I also imitate Christ." It would be a redundant statement to say that Paul and Peter denied themselves and they chose to be a peculiar people, that they chose to bear the mark of Christ. For even Paul says in Philippians 1:21, to live is Christ and to die is gain. But the last passage I just want to wrap up with and look at is John 13. We'll look at 34-38. I want to end with this passage because it shows the significance and seriousness of the commitment that one makes when deciding to put on Christ and to follow him. The cross that we bear daily for his sake in Luke 9:23 is a far better cross than the one that we deserve. As the one Richard mentioned just last Sunday in this lesson, the cross that we should have taken on is not the one that we've had to bear. In John 13, let's now read it. "I give you a new command, love one another, just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." "Lord," Simon Peter said to him, "where are you going?" Jesus answered, "Where I'm going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow later." "Lord," Peter asked, "why can't I follow you now? I will lay my life down for you." Jesus replied, "Will you lay your life down for me? Truly, I tell you, a rooster will not crow until you have denied me 3 times." in the context of this, he's talking to Peter, and he's predicting what is going to befall him when he is arrested, that they will scatter to him. But the question of Lord, that Jesus replies when Peter asks him, I will lay my life down for you. He asks the question back, will you lay your life down for me? That stuck with me because I feel like it's relevant, because Jesus shows many examples, and even he had to lay his life down for us. This lesson of being a peculiar people is not new. It's not, the concept of staying faithful is not new, but yet it's so relevant to our life and it's central to our life, is becoming a Christian and staying a faithful one. If there's anyone that has a matter that they need, whether it's public or private, whether they need to meet with an elder or deacon, I urge you to please bring it before God. Do not walk away that having a matter unresolved. And if anyone needs to be baptized, the water is ready. You may now come as we stand and sing. Zion's call.